I come across many strange and twisted motives when researching killers. People choose to kill for all manner of reasons. But the motivation for this case is so selfish, so evil, and so cold that it left me totally speechless. The case of Louise Porton is an incredibly chilling one. This happened in 2018 in a place called Rugby in the UK, a place that would forever be tainted by what happened. Louise Porton was 23 years old at the time. She worked as a sex worker and a part-time model. Louise was also the mother to two adorable children named Lexi and Scarlett. Lexi was 3 years old and Scarlett was only 17 months old. Her family described the two young girls as extremely sweet and cute and very lovable. Louise was a single mother to her two children, which of course is no easy task for anyone. For reasons I'm not too sure of, the father wasn't in the picture, and he had never even seen Scarlett in the whole 17 months of her life so far. On January the 2nd, Louise tried to arrange for an ambulance to pick up her daughter Lexi, as she seemed to be having some kind of seizure. She then later cancelled the ambulance, saying her father had arrived, and that they could make their own way to the hospital. Lexi was taken to the hospital and treated, and she managed to recover. All while this is taking place, Louise was messaging a man to arrange paid sex. The man messages her and asks if he would have to pay cash up front. This would be the first of many acts of strange behaviour from Louise, and a total lack of concern about her daughter's well-being in times that would make an ordinary mother frantic. But Louise just seemed more bothered about her sex life. Lexi was discharged from hospital at around 6 AM in the following morning. But then, on the 4th of January, in the early hours of the morning, Louise was browsing the web for information focused on children's health and seizures. Then, she made a call to 911, saying that she had discovered her daughter Lexi, and that she had been sick while laying on her back, and that she was no longer breathing. Well, at least that's what she claimed had happened. The paramedics quickly came, and Lexi managed to survive. Louise wrote a message to her friend that night, and she said, "She is still not right. She died for 20 minutes at 3:30 AM, going to be in hospital for a few days." But the following day, she began messaging a local photographer, saying that for £300 he could do with her as he pleased. Her daughter had nearly died only hours before, but again, she seemed more concerned about her sex work. With no obvious diagnosis for what happened to Lexi on both occasions, the doctors concluded that she must have had a chest infection, and they discharged her with some antibiotics. These would be the first two attempts made by Louise to take the life of her small innocent daughters. She had in fact tried to kill her by obstructing her airways, and she tried to pass it off as some kind of accident or death by natural causes. In the following days, Louise would continue to search a very particular topic. Whilst browsing the internet, she accessed a story on Sky News about a child who had died from the flu virus, and for how long after drowning can someone be resuscitated, and then a story about a toddler who was brought back to life after nearly drowning, and then how long does it take for a dead body to go cold up to the shoulder, and an article about 5 weird things that happen when you die. And she also searched, can you actually die if you have a blocked nose and you cover your mouth with tape? In the early hours of January 15th, 2018, Louise again made a 911 call, saying that she found Lexi's lifeless body in her bed after going to check on her.
Ambulance service. Is the patient breathing?
No.
They're not breathing?
No.
Okay. And who was it we're talking about?
Lexi, she's 3.
She's 3? Bear with
Yeah.
me. Okay. So, she's unconscious and she's not breathing. So help has been arranged, okay?
Paramedics responded to the emergency call, and they found Lexi dead. And it turned out that she had been dead for quite a while by the time they got there. She was cold to the touch. The sudden unexpected death in infancy and childhood procedures were followed by professionals. A doctor named Philip Cox carried out the post-mortem examination on Lexi on the 19th of January. Samples were taken for analysis, and the conclusion was not a natural cause of death, but at the same time, there was no signs of anything suspicious. Of course, at this time, they didn't know about her internet search history, but they soon would. In the meantime, Louise had custody of Scarlett, as the social services didn't act to the previous issues regarding Lexi, as they would later claim they didn't know. Yet multiple people did in fact call the social services in the weeks before Lexi died, with concerns for her children's well-being. In the following days, Louise showed little to no signs of grief. The day after Lexi's death, on the 16th of January, she accepted 41 friend requests on the dating app Meet Me. When she was asked by a friend about Lexi's death, she joked, saying, "I had 2, now down to 1. And whilst she was arranging the funeral, she was seen on FaceTime to someone, laughing. And if this behaviour wasn't disgusting enough, later, she would sell a bunch of Lexi's clothes on Facebook for £20. Then, on the 1st of February, less than 3 weeks later, she had set out to take Scarlett to the hospital after she had fallen ill. Here in this footage, you can see Louise driving around. All the while, her infant daughter lay in the back seat, dead. On her way to the hospital, she pulled over in the car park at Elliott's Retail Park in Rugby to call 111. The number 111 is the UK non-emergency line. She called them, saying that Scarlett was asleep in the car while she drove her to the hospital. The operator asked Louise to see if she could wake her daughter, and she replied saying that she could not, because Scarlett was dead. And while she was driving to the hospital, she pulled up to a petrol station to fill up her tank. So in the CCTV footage you're seeing right now on screen, Scarlett was indeed in the back seat, and was no longer alive at this time. The emergency services arrived and found Scarlett had been dead for some time. The paramedics asked some questions. Louise told them that she had been diagnosed with the flu, and that her sister had passed away only 2 weeks earlier. But the paramedics were startled, because Louise said this with absolutely no emotion at all. Following Scarlett's death, Dr. Cox again carried out the post-mortem, along with another pathologist. They worked together to conduct the post-mortems on both Scarlett and Lexi. No natural cause was found for the death of either child. It was discovered that both children had died as a result of deliberate airway obstruction, and Scarlett had signs of recent bleeding in her neck tissue, a clear sign of neck compression. After this, the Warwickshire police launched a murder investigation into the deaths of both children, as there was overwhelming evidence that Lexi and Scarlett died because someone had deliberately interfered with their breathing. Blood would also later be found on Scarlett's pillow, which suggested smothering may have also been involved. It was clear that Louise had held off from calling 999, just enough so that they could not be resuscitated. On the 20th of March 2018, Louise was arrested on suspicion of murdering Lexi and Scarlett by suffocation. One friend of Louise came forward, and she said that she would do whatever she could not to have her daughters with her. And a former landlord told police that she would often look after the two sisters, sometimes for the whole day, and up to 4 times a week, while Louise was out shopping and meeting other men. The court heard claims that she sent topless photos of herself from the hospital toilets while Lexi was being treated by the doctors. And then all of her Google searches that I mentioned earlier came to light, and her blatant lack of care for her daughter's deaths was brought forward too. The signs in Lexi's murder were subtle, but after piecing the evidence together, it left no doubt that she had killed both of her children. The evidence demonstrated calculated decisions to kill each of her children on 2 separate occasions. During the trial, Louise stated that she loved her daughters, and that she would give them whatever they wanted. She said that she had nothing to do with their deaths, and that she was shocked and upset when they died. But while standing trial, she did not seem to be too distressed by the deaths. Louise had no mental disorder that could explain what happened in this case, but the evidence seemed to suggest that the motive for killing her own children was that she saw them as nothing more than a burden, and she strangled the defenseless children that looked to her for comfort to death, so they would no longer get in the way of her sex life. What makes this case stand out to me is the total lack of care she had for her own flesh and blood. The way she killed her innocent children is sickening to say the least, and the way she drove to the petrol station with her dead infant child Scarlett in the back seat disturbed me greatly. And understanding the context behind the CCTV footage gives me chills when I watch it. It's strange. Surely putting them into care would be an easier option. She gets what she wants, and she doesn't have to cover up the killings and risk jail time. And the children get to carry on enjoying their lives, and they get a chance to grow up with someone who wants children. Of course, going into care is never a nice thing, but it's a hell of a lot better than what she did. The father of the 2 girls, named Chris Draper, has stated that he hates Louise for what she did to them, and that it fills him with sadness that he never got the chance to meet his daughter Scarlett. And sadly, in 2020, Sharon Porton, the grandmother of the 2 sisters, took her own life. Many people said that she had been haunted by her daughter's evil murder of her 2 children. On the 2nd of August 2019, Louise was sentenced to life in prison, with a minimum term of 32 years, which means she could potentially get out in her 50s.